Welcome back
Do
to
you
the
want me
Occoli.
to open it up?
What?
Oh, sorry, you go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Welcome back to the Occoli Sports postgame coverage. Chris Becker joined here by Ryan Breeden. The Cowboys lost a. The score says one thing. It really wasn't that bad of a game. Baylor won 81-66. Oklahoma State led for probably 28 minutes of that game, 25 probably, but they came up short. You're shorthanded. You're without Kate Cunningham. You're without Rondell Walker. Ryan, you were at the game. Kind of just tell us how that game went and the flow of it and how the Cowboys were able to overcome the fact that you're without the Big 12 leading
Yeah,
scorer and one of the best bench players.
yeah. I feel like there's a kind of not a lot to say in the sense of just like how this game went. I mean, you're with 8 players in total, without your best player. From the beginning, it was very clear that Oklahoma State was going to have to work as hard as they could for every basket that they came by, and we've seen that Oklahoma State's had a history of having some troubles, especially right around the 12-minute timeout in the second half. And Baylor kind of was able to catch a rhythm there around that time with Jared Butler, and it just kind of felt like it just kind of slipped away over that 5-6 minute span where Baylor shot 9 for 11 over the course of about 6 minutes. And from then, I mean, it was just kind of history. I mean, it's tough, especially when you look at the fact, too, that this team hasn't played a game in over 10 days. So, I mean, just all that added together, I feel like it's just kind of a lot of things stacked against a young team.
Right. And you mentioned Jared Butler. The storyline of this game was supposed to be, Jared Butler, Kate Cunningham, two of the top players in the country, two guys fighting, in contention for the Naismith Player of the Year. But Cade obviously did not play. He hadn't practiced yet. He was able to get cleared today and get up some reps before the game. But you know, Jared Butler was held in check for the majority of that game, and then around the 11-minute mark of the second half, he made three straight threes and then just took the game over from there. He ended up with 22 points, 6 assists. Kind of talk about how he was just able to, how those three threes really just kind of, derailed the entire thing.
Well, I mean, you look at the course of the game at that point, we're at around I want to say the 9.5 minute mark when that happens. And Oklahoma State has a 3 point, or they're down by 3 points. Oklahoma State's down by 3 without 9 minutes to go. He makes a three. It's a 6 point game. Then this is right in the middle of the time, too, when the Cowboys have a bit of turnover problems. I think they had 2 or 3 of them over the course of this. And so when you have Jared Butler start to feel his rhythm, make 3 straight 3 pointers, with 2 of them being fairly contested shots, it's just a killer, honestly. I mean, you go from being down 3 against the number 2 team in the nation in 1 minute, and then 3 minutes later, you're down by 12. That's just tough to overcome. And another thing to look at, too, is the rebounding department. Oklahoma State dominated the boards in the first half. I think they out-rebounded Baylor by 11 or 12. And then in the second half, it was the opposite. Baylor dominated the boards, and it just allowed for them to get extra possessions. Oklahoma State wasn't able to get those offensive rebounds that they sometimes are able to get to extend possessions, and those are the things that they need to have go their way and the things they need to be able to do, especially when you're shorthanded like this. And it just didn't happen in the second half, and so all that accumulated together didn't really didn't really give the team a chance over that 17-1 run that happened. I want to say over the course of probably 6-7 minutes.
Right. And I know I keep iterating this, but you're without Kate Cunningham, you're without Rondell. You'd expect a guy like, Oklahoma State has guys all up and down this lineup who could step up. You'd really expect one to be Isaac Likely. He had 9 points, but that really wasn't the case. He shot 1 of 8 from the field. All of his points came from the free throw line except for 2. But then Caleb Boone, who 2 weeks ago told us in the media availability that he was having confidence troubles. He wasn't really playing like himself. He was just down. He was struggling. But he came out career high points, tied career high in rebounds, career high in minutes, 21 points, 7 boards, and then M.A. Moncrief, first college double double, 13 points, 10 boards. Talk about how those two guys were able to kind of keep the Cowboys in this game, even though they lose 81-66, but they really were never out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, basically, without Cade, it seems pretty obvious that Baylor was probably going to do everything they could to keep Isaac Likely in check, and for the most part, they were able to do that. But Ice didn't really help himself from the field, going 1 for 8, as you mentioned. So Baylor kind of tried to take him out of the game. And they did a very good job of that. And so at that point, it seemed clear that the Cowboys were going to try to play through their two big men down there in the paint and try to get them good looks, get them feeds inside for easy layups, easy dunks, stuff like that. And that's exactly what you saw. And I mean, Caleb Boone had an amazing game. He started fast. He had 7 of the first 9 points for the Cowboys. And then M.A. Moncrief made a lot of big plays as well. And he's shown that he's really good down low, especially like when it comes to getting put back layups, back dunks, stuff like that. And he did I mean, both those guys did a really good job in the rebounding department, just keeping the Cowboys afloat, helping them get as many opportunities as they could and keeping Baylor from getting the second chances.
Right. And then, Bryce Williams, kind of been the guy to go along with Rondell Walker as, the quote unquote spark plugs of this defense. Both sides really, he kind of leads the way in the Cowboys 3-point shooting department.
He does.
Almost solo. He made 3 of the Cowboys' 4 threes today. Can you talk about, or maybe what you've seen from, the progression of OSU's 3-pointers? They only took 10 today. It would be pretty easy when you get down by double digits to just start throwing up 3-pointers. They didn't really do that like they did kind of earlier in the season when they trailed some games in Big 12 play. But kind of talk about the progression of what you've seen from how they've gone from a pretty bad 3-point shooting team to they shot 40% today.
I feel like the biggest emphasis is to not shoot as many because it's pretty clear that that's an area of weakness for this team. So you've been able to see pretty much this entire season that they are the plan is trying to get as many good open looks close to the basket as you can. And I think that's kind of what they've done. And so far, it seems like Bryce Williams is what we all thought Farron Flavors was going to be. But with Farron kind of struggling to start the season, he's out right now with a lingering finger issue. Bryce Williams has stepped up into that role and shown why Coach Boynton talked about him as being probably the most complete guard on this team. He really can do it all. And I mean, he made 3 big 3-pointers today that helped the Cowboys keep their lead for the first half and for a little bit of the second half. And so, I mean, I think, that's the biggest thing is just not making your weakness a bigger weakness by doing it more. So they're doing it less and they're getting good looks and they're only shooting them when they have to or when they feel like they have a good look.
Right. My final thing for you, this loss drops the Cowboys to 9-4, 3-4 in conference play. Where do you think the Cowboys rank above, in those 4 lost teams in the NCAA? There's quite a bit of them, but in my opinion, they're pretty high up there in the one of the top 4 lost teams in the nation.
Well, I think there's something to be said about. I saw something that I think the Cowboys have the most tier 1 wins in NCAA in all of college basketball so far this year, which it's like in the analytics things were like the most column 1 wins. And so, I mean, they've beat some very good teams, and the teams that they've lost to have been very good teams as well. And all of those games, it's not like those games that they lost were lost causes. I mean, if you look at things, if you take this game out of the picture, because this game was just really difficult start to finish, especially considering what was stacked up against you. You go back, TCU, that's a pretty bad, that's a tough one. I mean, you have an 8-point lead with 2.5 minutes to go, and then you blow that one. That's a tough one. But then you go from there, and they have a 19-point lead against West Virginia, and they lose that one at home. And then they have their close game on the road against now top 5 team in Texas, and they come out of there and they fall after a big run from Texas. Also, they're in around that 12-minute mark. So, I mean, if I look at it, Oklahoma State, I would say, is a very, very, very good team considering the fact that they have 4 losses. And I think that if they were able to figure out how to limit opponents' runs and stop those before they get out of hand and snowball, there's a very real chance that this team could be sitting, instead of at 9-4, they could be 11-2.
Right.
So, I think the 4 losses.
I said this during halftime. This is only Baylor's second time to trail at a half in this entire season, which speaks volumes to the fact that OSU had 8 players available for this game. So, to come out, put the number 2 team in the nation on the ropes in the first half, it speaks volumes. It really does. OSU's led. They've played 5 ranked opponents this year in Big 12 play, or in overall even, and they've led at halftime in all 5 of them.
Yep.
So if the Cowboys can come out and finish, and get to full health again, and can limit the runs of the opponents, they have themselves sitting pretty when it comes to March.
I would agree with that. And so, I mean, just going forward, it's just about seeing if they can get as many guys back as they can, being healthy and in the rotation, get some more depth under, and then just see how much they can grow from the experiences that they had in those games that they lost where they had leads, and then today when they were without their best player. So, I mean, they can just use stuff like this as a growing experience to hopefully help them out in some tough games down the stretch. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about kind of what happened today. I feel like it was just tough all around in general, and it was a good fight, but it was it almost felt inevitable, honestly, just with kind of the things stacked against them.
All right. Once again, Oklahoma State falls to Baylor 81-66. Baylor improves to 14-0. Best start, continuing to build on that best start in school history for them. The Cowboys fall to 9-4, and they'll be back in action Monday in Ames against Iowa State, and we'll be back after that game to tell you guys how it happened. Thank you. Once again, Chris Becker, Ryan Breeden. You guys have a good night.